welcome to the Twinkle Star Dance Podcast. We're so excited to have you here. For those who may not know you yet, can you start by telling us a little bit about Dance No Limits and what inspired you to open your studio in Greenville?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you guys. You're some of my favorite people to chat with. I own Dance Without Limits in Greenville, South Carolina. We are in our 10th season, which is crazy. We just opened our second location in January, so we now are a multi-site studio. We are recreational only, so we just cater to recreational dance students. We're also an inclusive studio, so we have lots of students with varying abilities, and we're super excited to just create a warm, welcoming environment for kids that want to experience dance with no pressure.
I love that. I know you kind of touched on how you recently expanded into Simpsonville. Congratulations. We're so excited for you.
Thanks.
What motivated you to kind of take that leap of faith to open a second location?
Yeah, so this has always been on kind of my business plan. I think when we worked out the details of what works for our area, for my life and what I wanted as a business owner, I felt like it was an opportunity to scale into more students, more classes. Because we're rec only, people don't want to commit a ton of time to tons of classes during the week. They don't want to drive really far to dance class. So it just works for our business model to kind of take our classes to them and make it as convenient as possible. So certainly was always on my plan. And when I met Tiffany and heard her model, I was like, oh, it's somebody that's doing this really, really well. And I was excited to learn from her.
And I'm glad I could be an inspiration there. But I love what you said about what works for your life and what you wanted from this, because I love owning a dance studio and I love being able to impact dancers and create community. But sometimes that really does pull on you and your work-life balance. You know, you've made this really intentional shift from focusing on the competitive dancers to building a more recreational based program. And I know you just mentioned maybe work-life balance, but what else might have prompted that decision to make that shift?
Yeah, it really, I had a realization one day that this business should serve me. You know, I've poured my life and my heart and everything into this. And sometimes we forget as much impact as we have and as wonderful as it is for our students, if it's not serving us and our families, the trade-off may not be worth it. So I really, once I recognized that, I started rethinking about what I want for my family, what I want for my kids. And it really all came down to my oldest daughter. So I have 3 daughters. They all danced at some point. My youngest is no longer dancing, but they all, of course, grew up in the studio as our kids do. But my oldest liked to dance, loved being at the studio, loved her friends, loved traveling and swimming in the hotel pools with her buddies and doing all the fun. But her heart was not dance. It was a fun thing she liked to do, but she didn't love the work in the classroom. She, didn't really care about all of the things that go into dance. Which fine, that was totally fine with me. I've always been clear with my kids that there's no pressure from me to do what I love. Just because I love this doesn't mean you have to. So it all came to a head one day. We were sitting in my office and we were going to a competition that weekend, and she had a solo that she was going to be performing, and she just burst out into tears. She was about 10 years old, and she said, "Mom, don't want to go to competition and sit through that awards ceremony just to have them announce that I got a high gold. Because then I'm going to have to walk across the stage and get my high gold trophy, and that's so embarrassing." And I just thought to myself, what am I doing here? Somewhere along the way, I kind of lost the point. And my child's whole childhood is being defined, and her self-worth is being defined by these 3 subjective strangers that I don't know, judging her 2 minutes on stage. And she's putting all of her self-worth into the color of trophy she's going to get. And in that instance, I thought, I'm done. So I just walked away from it that day and decided that I was going to build a business not revolving around competition. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with competition. I think for some students, it is very valuable. I just think for some students, it's not. And as an industry, we were moving towards only catering to the students it serves. And we were leaving behind all the other kids like my daughter. So I just thought, well, shoot, I'll just do that. I mean, I don't have to travel on the weekends. I'm not spending all my time in meetings with dance moms about where their kids dance or why they haven't gotten this trick or why they don't have this solo. And I was able to build really an entire community around what my daughter needed. So it was kind of a gamble at first. Everyone told me I was nuts. They're like, there's no way you can build a business without competition. But I found a whole market of parents that wanted what I wanted.
I'm there with you. You know, you're there with your 10-year-old daughter, and then you stop for a second and think, if this is what my daughter feels like, how about another dancer, you know? And maybe
Right.
this is what they're thinking dance is. Like you said, you're only serving that type of dancers. And it took a lot of bravery on your end to shift because, you know, people say, oh, it won't work. People won't want to come to your dance studio if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, maybe not those types of people that are looking for that experience. But, you know, were there more people looking for a different experience? Did you find that there was a bigger percentage of parents and families and kids that were looking for the experience, the non-competitive experience, than the competitive experience?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're the largest studio in our area. So the second I changed our messaging to talking to specific types of parents and telling our story, and once I made that shift, they just kept coming. And what I keep hearing from parents over and over again is, we didn't think a studio like this existed. We thought that dance was not an option for us because we weren't willing to go the competition route. So I was creating something that people were missing and had just written off as not even possible, which was so gratifying. It was such a fingers crossed and hope it works kind of situation. And so to see them come and say, you're speaking to me, you're speaking to what I want for my child, has been super, super rewarding.
How has moving towards a recreational focus affected your work-life balance and just your overall studio culture?
Yeah, so of course it freed up tons of my time. When I was in competition, so much of my time, as you guys know, is spent traveling and in rehearsal and doing all the things. So all of a sudden I had my weekends back. I was home every weekend, which was amazing. From a culture perspective, I don't tend to attract parents that are trying to raise a superstar. I'm attracting parents who want to give their kid an opportunity to try something new with the understanding that they may or may not like it. So that's a very different dynamic from the customer to me. We do a lot of education. We do a lot of this is how dance works. And this is how dance studios work. And this is what the performing arts are about. A lot of unknown coming into our studio versus parents that are like, I want my baby on Broadway. She's going to be the next, famous actor, dancer, or whatever. I'll say it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's still things we have to work through, just like any other studio owner. But that pressure of having to constantly produce amazing professional level dancers is just not on me or my staff, which enables us to focus on what we think really matters, hitting developmental milestones and building confidence in kids, making them feel worthy and seen and valued. So we're just not quite as focused on that triple pirouette as we are their character and who they're becoming and how they can express themselves through the arts.
There are so many, I'm furiously taking notes over here. There's so many little nuggets that you're sharing. And I think especially as I'm kind of stepping into a new role of being a studio owner, I think it's helpful to keep top of mind one of the things you said at the beginning of the call about your business being able to serve you and not just how you're serving your customers. I think that's something that I wrote down for myself to take away. But have you noticed changes in your students and families that stayed with you? And did you see changes as you were kind of making the shift from being, competition and all of that? How did that impact you and your studio culture?
So I have a slightly different story than most. So the first studio I owned was in a different state and I competed with that studio. So when we moved, I sold that studio to my business partner and started fresh here. And I never competed with this studio here. From the get-go, we were never a competition studio. So I didn't have to deal with that. I would imagine it would be pretty hard to make the shift. When I think back to my first studio, shifting that studio to rec only would be really, really challenging. I do still have students that come to me and they start with us and they, after a few years, love it and they want more. And I am happy to give them recommendations of competition studios in the area. I'm very intentional about getting to know other studio owners. I think there's so much value in that. We can, be supportive and coexist and be fine. We're pretty clear about the people that we serve, and that's not everyone, because you cannot be all things to all people. So if I get students that want more than what we're able to give, I'm happy to pass them on. And I will say, being recreational only, retention is more of a challenge for us because this is one of the many things they're trying. I lose quite a few students to gymnastics or soccer or, whatever, cheerleading, but I release with grace and love and all the encouragement that they find, whatever fills them up. And if that's not at my studio, I'm 100% okay with that.
That's great. And I love what you said about you're very intentional on getting to know the studios in your area so that you have some, a place to recommend that these dancers go. And if you look at like the difference, if you were a competitive studio in your area, you would be so narrowly focused on what you're doing, and you wouldn't open up you wouldn't open up your periphery to see anybody else because you'd be focused on competing. And so this is just like a nice example of positive emotion. Like come in and enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, that's okay. We're not trying to prove our own worth through the studio. We're just trying to create a beautiful place. I just want to make the point that I think this builds on itself. And when you have maybe your purpose at the top of your philosophy, like, what are we doing here at my studio? If someone's listening to this, they're thinking, okay, how do I do this and keep competitions going? Of course you could, but maybe it is just a refocus back on what's my main goal. I'd like to switch a little bit and talk a little bit about the impact that maybe Twinkle Star Dance has had on you and your studio. So you've been a part of the Twinkle Star Dance community for a while now, which we've loved having you. How has it positively impacted your business overall, do you think?
Yeah, I love Twinkle Star Dance. So I opened in a new city. I didn't know anybody, and nobody knew me. So I had my 3 kids and their friends, and that was basically it. I knew I would have to build from preschool up. I wasn't willing, to swipe somebody's teenagers. So I was going to have to build a program from the ground up. And I'm a systems kind of girl. I like a system. I like a process. I like organization. And I thought, well, I can write curriculum, or I can just pay someone else who's already done the work. So I started researching preschool curriculum and came across Twinkle Star. And I think you are just the right mix of structure and age appropriate and fun. For me, it kind of ticked all 3 of those boxes. So I was immediately like, yeah, this is it for me. Just the ability to systemize my preschool program, that we grew very fast. Once I honed in on our message, we grew really fast. And I had to have teachers to keep up with the growth because I was not going to teach, 100 classes a week. So I had to have a way to systemize what we were doing because I'm super, super particular about quality. So once I found the Twinkle Star curriculum, I was able to duplicate it, train teachers. What I love most about it, I partner with local university dance programs. So I have an internship program through them. I work a lot with their dance majors and hire a lot of their dance major graduates who are just starting out their dance teaching journey. And we all know the struggle. So having curriculum that is structured has allowed me to bring them in as a first-year teacher and come alongside them and be like, here are the tools you need to teach a really excellent class. So that value has been phenomenal for me. I hired 8 teachers just this summer. But I'm able to say, hey, yeah, here's our August Twinkle Babies lesson plan, and here's all the videos that go with it. Go learn your material. So super thankful for you guys.
Yes. And I love what you're saying about partnering with the university to have an internship program. I know I'm kind of in the process of hiring teachers myself right now, and it's amazing how many people will schedule things and then not show up or other things. And so it's nice to have, like you're saying, that system in place where you're literally in 24 hours, you can say, here's your music, here's your playlist, here are the videos you need. When it comes to training your teachers, is there like a particular system or process that you use? I know you have the Twinkle Star videos and stuff, but do you bring them in for an in-person training, or kind of chat a little bit about how your like teacher hiring, interview, onboarding process goes?
I try. I keep having to hire young people, so I feel like I've been forced to get good at this.
Yeah.
I have a whole hiring process, which is long and involved. And so much of hiring is just listening, right? So I'm really looking for people that love kids, that resonate with our mission and our vision. I won't hire people that won't work with preschoolers. Our preschool department is 50% of our student base. If you can't manage a classroom of 3 or 4-year-olds, you can't work with me. There are so many classroom skills and life skills taught in a preschool classroom that you're not going to get in an advanced teen class that I think particularly young teachers really need. So I'm very clear about that at hiring because I get a lot of applicants that are like, I'll only work with teens. And I'm like, well, you can't work here. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, that's super important. Our onboarding always starts with our mission and vision. I try to be very intentional about setting our purpose in front of our people literally all the time. I think they probably get tired of hearing about it, but it's important to come back to the why because it gets hard, right? The job is hard. And sometimes you have off days and the kids are losing their minds and you're like, what am I doing here? So I need that to be forefront for them when they hit the hard. I host a week-long training before each of our semesters starts where we dance through each lesson plan. So we're all in a circle doing the hokey pokey and we're all in a circle doing yo Mickey. And, I talk to them like they're 3 or like they're 4. So I'll say, I'm going to talk to you like you're a 3-year-old. I want you to listen to the words I'm saying, pay attention to where I'm looking because I have eyes on at all times, or do we have a wanderer? Sometimes we'll role play and I'll assign people like, I need you to be the kid that won't come out of the corner and I need you to be the kid that won't stop running. And so we'll talk through how to handle those different scenarios. But I have found word answers first, right? So getting it into our body has been the best way to train and teach people on curriculum.
And that's always been my philosophy. And I love that you're taking that and running with it. You have to actually go, okay, we're making this day. Teachers need to be there. We're going to physically stand up and do it. And the reason is that you have to model the energy that you want from your teachers. And that is why you're so successful because, you can have a great curriculum and it can just kind of be there. But if we're not actually putting it into their bodies and if we're just sitting around and looking at videos, it doesn't translate. And a lot of it's energy. A lot of it is like, are you excited as a teacher to be teaching this? Be our guest. What I love about what you're doing is that you're taking that and not just saying, okay, here's the curriculum, go at it. But you're saying, no, I'm going to help you. I'm going to train you. And it starts with your mission and your purpose. They need to know why it's important that they teach these classes. It takes time. So, I can ask you, Beth, how much time do you think you spend on managing and training teachers in your studio?
I think it depends on the year and how many of them are new. So this year, a lot, because I have 8 new ones. I do have a director of operations that is kind of over all things dance. Great. So she is the one answering their questions day to day. We use Slack for our communication. So she spends a vast majority of her time just on Slack responding to questions from all the new people because they have so many questions, which is great. So we do a once a month all staff meeting on Zoom where I'm going through everything they need to know for the month. I will host new teacher meetings just kind of as needed. So we're having one next week because recital's coming up and they don't know how it all works. So I'm going to, sit down with all of them and go over all of our processes involved in our winter shows. We use Spot TV in the classroom. So I have video cameras in the classrooms all the time and I can watch that footage. I really try to stay on top of observing classes. Not all the time, but I'll just pull up, a video from class last week and check in. Like, are we sticking to the lesson plan? How's our energy? Do we have control of the classroom? And then we do formal meetings twice a year where we're doing kind of a formal review. I have a form we fill out with a bunch of different markers, classroom management, energy in the classroom, attendance, curriculum, all that good stuff. And we talk through all those different points. So I'm trying to give them as much feedback as possible. I will say that has been the hardest thing for me. It is extremely time consuming. I just keep telling myself, this is the job. This is how we scale. This is how we grow. Unfortunately, the downside of this many 20 somethings is I have high turnover because they will get into it, teach for a year and realize I don't actually want to do this, which is fine. And again, that's why curriculum is so valuable because I'm able to replace them pretty easily. And again, I release them with grace. I think it's really important for us as studio owners to remember that no one owes us anything. No one owes me their loyalty. No teacher, no staff member, no student, no parent. They don't owe me anything. When I let that go, then I'm able to see, this is just one stop in their journey and they may be here a year, they may be here 20 years. Either way is great by me. But I'm going to come alongside while I have them and support them as much as I can. That's brilliant because that whole owe you loyalty, it's nobody owes anybody anything, but while you have them, you're happy to have them. But I like what you said about you have to follow up. We have to look and see how they're doing. And the follow up is the thing that I think is the most time consuming. Like you said, it also is probably not as fun as the training. But it's very important. So sometimes if I talk to a studio owner and they'll say, what do I need to do? And I'll say, just focus on your teachers and your classes. It's 100%, 99.9% of the battle. I would like just for our listeners to know, if you'd be happy to, or be comfortable sharing, how many students do you have, Beth? Like how
Like, how successful are your teachers? Like, I'd love to be able to give you the props here. So what does your enrollment look like right now?
So enrollment right now, we have about 830 students. We have 640 in our main location. And then I have about 100 in our second location, working on growth there. And then we have 51, 52 that are in daycares. So we do a mobile program where we take the Twinkle Star lesson plans into daycares and preschools. So we work with 5 schools in the area and have students dancing through that. So total, we have just over 800.
Oh, congratulations. That's incredible. And it really is a testament to you and your leadership and your positivity, and that, you stay focused, right, on what it is that's the most important part of your job, which is to lead, and to lead with care, and all of the things that you are. But real fast, let's touch on kind of like your community outreach. So one thing we love that you're doing is how you bring the Twinkle Bear Storytime experience into your local community. Can you share a little bit about what you're doing with that?
Yes, it's my favorite. When you guys came out with the Twinkle Bear books, I was like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. So yes, and we actually, if I remember right, they came out right before COVID. So I was using them during COVID. I was teaching Zoom Twinkle Bear Goes to Ballet classes for the community. And they worked so well for that, that I was like, gosh, I'm just going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So we partner with our local library system, and I go to usually 4 or 5 branches, depending on when they schedule me. And I take one of the Twinkle Bear books. So I go twice a year. I gave them the whole list. We bought all the books. So I was like, here's all your options. And they'll just send me, this month we want to do Twinkle Bear Tea Party. Next time we just did Pumpkin Party. So I go and I read the book and I teach the dance class. It's a free event for the community. They're hugely popular. We typically have between 100 and 200 at each branch dancing with us. I pass out my promotional materials after I teach, and we just have the best time. The kids all bring their stuffies with them. So we tell them to bring stuffies to the library, and we just dance and live it up.
And I love that you take something that, a Twinkle Star Adventure of Storytime book, and then you adapt it to like, yeah, this is working in my dance class, but I also can take this to a library and do a big storytime event and invite members of the community. Are there like parents that are dancing with you guys too?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So everyone gets up and moves. So I've got siblings and babies are crawling around. I mean, it's kind of chaos.
Yeah.
But I thrive in chaos, so I'm cool with that. It's loud and crazy. And yeah, the pumpkin twist is my favorite ever. So we just pumpkin twist it up. I typically take a bubble wand and we end up with free dancing and bubbles at the end. And yeah, it's just a good time all the way around.
And are you reading those stories yourself in the library? Are you the one facilitating those events, or do you have teachers that do them?
I've done both. I started out doing all of it because I'm the face of the studio. As we grew and expanded, I brought on a Twinkle Toes director, so a preschool director. So then she went out to the library and did it. We've had some staff changeover this year, so it's back to me. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm happy to do it in the community. I don't teach anymore, so I'm out of the classroom. So I think it's important for my face to still be seen.
Yes.
I am best in front of kids. Adults are not my jam. Kids are. So anytime I can show up, right? Anytime I can show up in the community in front of a bunch of kids, I think that's always good for business. So we did that. And then this year we added our children's museum. They contacted us and wanted us to do the same. So now we'll be doing the library and the children's museum twice a year, which is great.
That's amazing. And I agree with you, as the face of the studio, getting yourself out of teaching probably really opens up your schedule. You can put out fires if you need to. It's good to, maybe if you have like something like this is perfect, especially if it's like once a month, or you do it once a week and it's a morning. I'm teaching right now a little Twinkle class on Tuesday mornings, mostly just so I can test out some new things. And I love it. And it's just a half an hour. I never thought I'd want to teach again that age, but we all grow and change and evolve as moms too. I'm empty nest. So I have less things to do during the day. I have less human beings to take care of. But I love that you keep yourself there, keep your face out there, and then also keep your toe a bit in the water so that when you talk to a teacher, you can say, oh, I know how this feels. Because sometimes when we remove ourselves from teaching, it's great for the business, but we forget some things. I would like to touch a little bit on your second location, because I'm so proud of you and it's amazing. And I know it's such a challenge. Believe me, I know. But I just wanted to, managing one studio is already like a super big job. With your managing the 2 locations, you're pretty much next level now. So we bow to you, Beth, and we know what it feels like. But how do you train and support your teachers to keep the Twinkle Stars experience consistent across both studios?
So I am by no means an expert on second location. It has been very much a learning curve, which everyone told me, but I was like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. So we're figuring it out as we go. From a marketing perspective, I have learned that I can't depend on my brand to go much farther out than the city I'm in. This second location is about 25 minutes from our first location, same county, but it very much exists as its own city. And the city I'm in is kind of the largest one in our county. And so I just assumed everyone followed what happens in Greenville. It turns out they don't. So we have such good brand awareness in Greenville that I assumed that translated to Simpsonville. And I learned very quickly it does not. So I'm having to kind of backpedal into those early days of marketing a new studio. As far as managing and teachers, I wanted to be really intentional about who I sent out to the second location because I knew I couldn't be there all the time. I still have 3 kids, so I'm juggling mom life and the first location and now the second. And so I wanted to make sure that I had people out there that could run it without me being there. So my office manager transitioned to working hours out there, she is part of my leadership team and very, very trustworthy. And then I sent some of my best teachers out to the second location because I knew they were already well trained. They know exactly what they're doing, exactly what my expectation is. And so I kept my newer teachers in my current location where I could keep closer eyes and move some more experienced ones out to the second location. So this year has been a bit of a shift with the change in staff. So I have more new teachers out there than I had planned. We have worked so hard to train them in our curriculum. There's no difference in teaching in one versus the other. A Twinkle Babies class is a Twinkle Babies class for us. And most of them work in both locations. So they may be in Simpsonville on Monday and they're in Greenville on Tuesday. So we try to really keep it consistent. Our branding is all the same. Our studio colors are the same. Our flooring is the same. It's just more the same.
Fantastic. And I'll just do a follow-up on that one. And boy, do I know this, it's like going from one child to the second one, it's like each child that you have, they're completely different. And each location, it doesn't matter whether it's 10 minutes away or 10 hours away, you're serving a different community and they have different needs. And we have right now with the 4 locations I had up to 9 in California at one time. When we go to recital, I could sort of just see the conversations that were happening and I could tell you what location it was because they're just different. You are very smart to take some of your good teachers and put them over there. And that also creates challenges because sometimes, and this is the hard thing about multiple locations that I know all too well, is that sometimes you say, okay, everything's going great in one location, so let's do a second one. But when you do that, you have to share your attention and your focus. So the attention and focus has to go to the second location. And at the same time, potentially you could lose some things back at your main. So it sounds like you've been able to keep your focus and attention on both. And I know what a challenge it can be, but it sounds like, you've got consistent teachers and you're making sure that you're putting strong teachers in that new location, which I think is wonderful. Congratulations on the second location. And if anyone can do it, you can. I think that's great. Okay.
Thanks. We're going to figure it out.
Of course. You will. And you know where to come for advice. You can come to me. So on a personal level, what do you think the Twinkle Star Dance program has done for you as a studio owner and a leader?
I really value having access to people that are ahead of me in this industry. So I always want to be around studio owners who have already accomplished what I'm wanting to accomplish. I'm a big fan of coaching. I will pay for business coaching forever and all time because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't surround yourself with people that do know, you're never going to learn how to be better at this. When I first opened a studio, I didn't even know what I'm doing now was a possibility. I didn't know that you could scale a dance studio like any regular business. Having access to people like you who have done that and done that well really opened my eyes to the possibilities. Twinkle Star has given me access to other studio owners and to leadership that are kind of showing the way. Like, this is what that can look like. This is how it can be done and done well. So having people to model for me what that looks like has been invaluable.
I feel like I needed this therapy session today with both of you. I was very stressed about permits and other things. And you helped, you kept saying the word intentional and just kind of refocusing on the intention of why we all do what we do. I think that has been so helpful for me. But do you have any advice for studio owners, maybe people that are just starting out in their journey like I am, or someone that is ahead of their journey about, I don't know, just kind of how you've used intentional and how you've let that serve you and your business as you've kind of grown?
For me, my mission is very personal. When it's personal, when it's core to who you are, it's easier to keep it top of mind, and it's easier to teach, train, duplicate. When we're trying to create something that's not really at the heart of who we are, it's going to feel not genuine. It's going to feel like you're just trying to do what people think success looks like. When it's coming from the core of who you are, it is so much easier to come back to it time and time again. I am the oldest of 18 children. My parents adopted 15 kids starting when I was 10 years old. So when I was 10, they started adopting children. They are from all over the country, all over the world. Have all kinds of, different stories. Quite a bit of them are on the disability spectrum. So I have a lifetime of experience with children that are just different than, what society would call normal or typical. And that was my whole upbringing, my whole childhood. I grew up, with feeding tubes and wheelchairs, and I knew how to do all of those things. So when I got into teaching dance, my mom was like, you need to create a class for your siblings so they can do what it is you do. And because I'm a good daughter, I said, yes, ma'am. So that's what I did. Starting from just that foundation of recognizing the value of teaching dance to kids whose bodies may not ever let them actually be good at it, set the foundation for what I do. And so that has transformed my whole career and has transitioned now into the purpose of this studio. But because that's the foundation of who I am, it's easy for me to keep it forefront. And it's easy for me to teach it to my staff. It's easy for me to seek out people who it resonates with, because I can tell if you're like, sign me up for that, or if you're like, rainbows and sunshine, but I really want to, train pre-professional dancers. Cool. That's not going to work here. So it's polarizing, right? What I do is very polarizing. And so I'm able to kind of seek out people that resonate and then teach them and train them. And when things get hard, it's the core of who I am. So it's what I'm going to come back to every time. So I would say for studio owners, figure out what's important to you, not what's important to the industry, not what's important to, economics or whatever someone's telling you or what you grew up with, but what is at the core of who you are and what's the point of doing this for you. And then that is your guiding light for everything you decide for your business after. You will find other people that it resonates with. You'll find people it doesn't too. But once you've honed in on it and you keep coming back to it, you'll just keep growing and you'll just keep expanding. So yeah, we get lost in the minutia, right? We get lost in the day-to-day. The permits are the worst.
Yes.
The payroll, the worst. Paying taxes, I don't want to. But each of those things is a step towards what you want, right?
Right.
And when you see that, and this is just the next step to what I want, then you can get through it, push forward, because you're coming back to the core of who you are each time.
Wow, Beth, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story. By the way, your parents modeled purpose for you, and now you are continuing that in your community, and that is just incredible. But before we wrap up, where can listeners connect with Dance No Limits online or social media, or if there's a studio owner out there that loved your story and wants to maybe pick your brain about something or get more advice about potentially studio to a recreational studio or anything under the umbrella, where can they connect with you?
They're welcome to email me, beth@dancewithoutlimits.co. We're also on social, on Facebook and Instagram. Dance Without Limits is the studio handle, and then Dance No Limits for Instagram. I'm always happy to share. This is my heart. So I'd love to reach out and answer any questions. I'm a teacher at heart, and I love being able to teach and mentor the folks coming up behind us as well.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of your insights.
No problem. I enjoyed it. Thanks, you guys.